it's Gabrielle, and this video is a sample from Studyclix Boost, our new rapid revision tool. Go to studyclix.ie/boost to find out more.
Okay, let's take a look at the neuron structure. Now remember, a neuron is just another word for a nerve cell. Now in this case, we're going to look at the motor neuron because this is the one you see most often drawn in textbooks. Now just a little reminder, a motor neuron connects the central nervous system, that's the brain and the spinal cord, to effectors in the body. Now what's an effector? An effector could be a muscle, it could be another neuron, it could even be a gland. Think the pituitary gland as an example. Now, neurons normally are found in a series one after the next. And in the case of the motor neurons, they're carrying a nerve impulse, which is just another word for a signal, away from the central nervous system towards the effector. It's a one-directional or unidirectional impulse. Let's now take a look at the different structures that make up the neuron. The dendrites are branch-like structures which receive the signal from other neurons. Neurons are just nerve cells, so they need a nucleus, and the nucleus is contained within the cell body, and therefore it's the cell body that controls the activities of the neuron cell. Running away from the cell body is a long wire-like structure called the axon, and its job is to carry impulses away from the cell body toward the synaptic knobs. This is done by electrical signals caused by ion movement. When describing the axon to my students, I often describe it a bit like an electric wire. At the center of the electric wire you have copper, just like the axon, but it needs to be surrounded by an insulator. In the case of a wire, it's plastic, but in the case of a neuron, that insulation is provided by the myelin sheath. Now, the myelin sheath is a fatty substance which insulates the axon, and it's secreted by a series of cells known as Schwann cells. At the tip of the axon are the synaptic knobs, and their job is to secrete a chemical called a neurotransmitter into the synapse. Now, it's really important that you understand what a neurotransmitter is and also be able to give a definition. Now, a neurotransmitter is a chemical transmitter that passes an impulse from the synaptic knob of one neuron to the dendrite of the next neuron across the synapse. And I always think it's important that you know one example of a neurotransmitter. So the one I use with my students is acetylcholine. The synapse is the name given to the junction between a neuron and another neuron, or an effector. Specifically, the synaptic cleft is the name given for the gap between the neuron and its effector. Now remember, the neurotransmitter is released into the synapse.